podcast is part of the Batman Universe podcast network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Here, we love talking about everything Batman. The BatmanUniverse.net has news, original content, and reviews about Batman comics, movies, TV shows, video games, and more. Check out the BatmanUniverse.net and join our Discord server to start chatting with fellow fans. We can't wait to talk to you guys. Also, visit our Patreon page and join our other awesome supporters. But enough of this nonsense. On with the show.
Gotham City, like any other large metropolis, abounds in girls of all shapes and sizes. Debutantes, nurses, stenographers, and librarians.
Gotham City Library, Miss Gordon speaking.
Lopez hair removal. This is Jose.
Holy transformation. 1 minute, plain Barbara Gordon, librarian and Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And the next minute, something new has been added. Batgirl, modeled after her idol, Batman.
Holy apparition! No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Caped Crusaders.
It took me 3 years to track down the Jade Gato, and 3 more to figure out how to steal it.
Funny, it only took me 10 minutes to figure out how to snatch it back. No matter how you do it, crime doesn't pay, girls.
Mihi Nomen Est, Stella, at Hawk Est, Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 250 for September MMXXIV. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out MileHighComics.com. Well, welcome. Here we are, episode 250. Really little to no fanfare, but here we are, maybe 300. That'll be something. Can't believe that I've reached this number of podcast episodes. Plus, if you think about all the other episodes for other shows that I've done, I'm sure I don't know, probably in the 300s or 400s. But yes, welcome. I will say just 2 little tidbits. So I did go to New York City. I'm actually wearing the shirt that I got from the show, Do It for Johnny, The Outsiders. And I saw it with the good or bad Professor Carolyn Coca, depending on how you perceive her. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. Went to the Chelsea Market, which I had never been. Went to the High Line, which was just like a lovely green space to walk along, and chatted and had fun. And then the show itself was really good. I mean, obviously there were some discrepancies from the source material, and some of which I disagree with. Like, I would have liked to have seen ... But overall, I thought it was great. I thought the choreography was great. I enjoyed the music, which it could have gone country, but which I don't like country music, but I thought that it was like soft country, so I allowed it. The set design and how they use pieces of the set as props and things, I very much enjoyed. One little, I guess, anecdote from my time with the good professor. We were sort of thinking about, I like to ask, historical questions about my relationship with other people, and just like, oh, did you ever think, we would get here from the first time that you cold emailed me, that sort of thing. And I think we were also talking about Comic Con because those two things were relating. And she asked when the last time I went to San Diego Comic Con was. And I said 2016. And she said no, which I thought was pretty offensive because, we're told that and I was telling my truth. So we're told, we have our truths. And sometimes I guess people deny your truth. And she denied it and said that it was actually 2017. So I guess it was that my truth was maybe out of alignment with my reality, or the reality. But I will say that in the moment, I did really think that it was 2016, but she was not letting me have it. So I guess have someone in your life, just like the Professor Coca, who will tell you no when you are speaking your truth. And then yesterday, because I'm really late in recording because I've lost all my weekends, I went to Baltimore Comic Con. The primary purpose, I think, was to really hang out with my good friend Tom Panarese, and he brought his son. And also, I mean, why not? Now that I have a local con that's kind of bigger, I did have one. I guess Charlottesville, Roanoke. I could have gone down there, but for once, it's in there. I'm proud of myself because I use the light line or the light rail, and so I'm excited that I can just go to a parking lot, take this light rail, in 20 minutes I'm in downtown Baltimore, and I don't have to worry about parking and driving down there. And yeah, I like Baltimore Comic Con because it's a nice mix of merchandise and comic creators and things, and it's not super overwhelming. And you can look around and chat with people. And I think generally everyone seems lovely there. Saw Babs Tarr and got a couple merchandise items from her. Saw Scott Larson that I know from my past with Spider-Man Crawl Space. Happened upon the Sutherlands, which funnily enough, I saw Ron Randall's booth and I thought, oh, they're probably there. And sure enough, they were. And I had jokingly expressed the fact that was my intuition there, that, wherever Ron Randall is, his two cronies are. And they loved that particular epithet that I had used, cronies. And that word had just been on my mind from teaching because there were a couple Catullus poems that we had translated, and he uses sodalis, which is like buddy or comrade or crony. And I was talking to the students about how crony is a great word, but typically there's a negative connotation because you think that they're going to beat somebody up. But I thought in the moment of calling the Sutherlands, who are just lovely people, cronies is pretty funny, but I think that they have now latched onto that. Yeah, Paul Wildenberger, I saw. I didn't know he was going to be here. He didn't know I was going to be there. And then I had already gotten home basically, and I got a message from somebody that said, "Are you in Baltimore? I think I saw you." So now there's another connection. Hopefully my social sphere can kind of get bigger now, knowing that there are some people that are local to Baltimore. And I did not get a lot of stuff. Luckily, I did go to Terry Moore pretty soon. One of the first stops I went and got his Parker Girls, and then he saw the pins on my bags and gave me a Catchu pen. And I got a lovely poster of Kiki's Delivery Service that was by an artist who typically does landscape posters of different settings of films. And yeah, it's just lovely. I think I know where I'm going to post it. I actually just got a frame from Michael's because it was on sale, and some pins, and trying to think. Oh, and then I found 2 pops. I had a list of pops that I wanted, and there's really only one sizable store with pop figures, and they were all 20 and above, which is really expensive for me. I'm like, can I get a $5 pop? But I skimmed and didn't really see anything. And then afterwards, I went back and looked at them more closely, and I ended up I found a Speed Racer pop figure, which that show and that character means a lot to me because of my childhood. And so I was like, I'm going to get, and he was only 15, so I thought I'm going to get it. And then I turned, and at the bottom of one of the racks, because it was very tall, I looked and I saw Cassandra Cain, and so I grabbed her. And then I looked at the other side and I saw Spoiler, and those are both 20. And so because of that, I decided not to get Speed Racer, so some other time. But I'm very, very happy to have Stephanie Brown Spoiler and Cassandra Cain Batgirl now. And yeah, the other thing is just that there were 3 actors from Aliens, and Tom got to get something signed by them, and then also had a picture with 3 of them. And then we went to an Aliens panel, which was pretty cool. So overall, I thought a pretty fun day. That's basically, I guess, my update. I think teaching is going for the most part okay. There are some challenges, and I had a big kind of frustrating 48 hours, which my good friend Harry always hears about some of these things. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, here I am. I'm just trying to fly under the radar. And now there's like drama already. And I was very apologetic to the principal and saying like, I'm so sorry, I feel like I brought this, but he was very adamant that it was not me and that I should have been supported better. So frustrations, but for right now, I'm not the cause of the drama, even though it does seem like the drama had followed me, but it's just a whole story that I could tell you. And I think we just don't have time for it because Carol and Coca's truth is that my intros are way too long. And even if I said no, she would probably just plow on ahead. So I will plow on ahead. I'm going to do 3 Cassandra Cain Batgirl issues that constitute a full arc. And I will say that I was wrong. Last episode, I said, I feel like I have not done a Cassandra Cain Batgirl or a year's worth of Cassandra Cain Batgirls. And as I was trying to figure out what I was doing for this one, I went to 55 and I'm like, no, I think I did this and kept going. I'm much better off than I thought I was. So actually 60, 61, 62, much better than the 55. So I think I just forgot. And I think a lot of that stuff, because there was a Tim Drake and Cassandra Cain crossover, was just happening in those trades that I got for war games and war crimes and all of that stuff. And we're coming, I think, to the near end of Cassandra Cain. I will say, I guess, to preface what I'm about to do, that I think it feels so long that I've done Cassandra that I feel almost out of practice in how to read these. And so I will say that I come down rather hard on this particular arc, but feel free to be like, no, you're wrong about this. But, this was a good arc, because I do have some opinions that I just feel like, what is this what I was reading? So anyways, this is Batgirl number 60, The Hood Part 1, Deep Digs. Writer Anderson Gabrick, penciler Ale Garza, inker Jesse Delperding, and colorist Wildstorm. March 2005 is the cover date. The publisher's synopsis is Batgirl is beginning to settle in Bloodhaven and is receiving combat training from Onyx, #YesQueen. She makes some important first steps, including acquiring an underworld snitch named Marquis and unless it's Marquis, but we'll go with Marquis, and a headquarters courtesy of Batman and Alfred. She also discovers that something big is going down. The Penguin has a delivery coming. However, she doesn't know that the Brotherhood of Evil are in town. So yeah, I think my favorite thing about this, and here is the cover with Penguin in the background and Batgirl in the foreground with lots of bats surrounding her. My favorite part is this beginning with Onyx and having that training situation, and the fact that Cass knows maybe she needs to train with someone who has a different fighting style, as well as, I guess, maybe be more adept at urban warfare. And Onyx may have that down, and Onyx also knows the lay of the land a bit more. So I feel like this is great. I think that this is something that Cass would in fact do as well. I was surprised, and this seems to be something that obviously we are encountering in current times in 2024. Cass taking off her mask. I feel like this is atypical of this version of Cassandra. And what is said is by Onyx, I think, is very wise, but I feel like we knew that. And it's almost as if the writer didn't know that, but the writer has to remind themselves and remind us as well. But Onyx says, Onyx is my name. That is who I am. I never got a chance to be anybody else, too stupid and too arrogant in my youth to cover my face and protect my name, my life. But you, baby girl, you got a face under that mask, a name behind that symbol. And if you're smart, you'll get a life too. And if you recall, this is something that was really big for Barbara as well, that she wanted Cassandra to have two sides of this life. Yes, you are Batgirl, but who are you also as Cassandra Cain? And it's interesting that Onyx is there to remind her of that. Or trying to think who wrote that particular issue with Barbara anyways. I guess it would have been a different, it would not have been Gabriel. But it's just interesting that we needed a reminding of that. And it always just feels weird to have her remove her mask in any story now. I just feel like that's a consistent thing, is that Cassandra Cain does not remove her mask. Moving on. I will say that Cass seems pretty verbose and well-spoken in this arc. She occasionally struggles with some words. One of them was coincidence, and one of them was snitch. But I feel like it's not enough from the writer to make it consistent. And I think it's interesting to go back to, the beginning of her and see what that is to where it is now. And even in 2024, I think maybe she's not, like, her dialogue needs to change a bit depending on how old she is, but it takes a little while, for people to be able to speak in this way. And just because you struggle on one word doesn't really point to the fact that you are still learning how to speak eloquently and fluently as well. Her new digs are interesting. Just scrolling past some of these. At first, it looks like she's just in some sort of, derelict building, but then she's able to meet up with Alfred, and this building does look derelict, but I guess for good reason. And we get to see all of the new paraphernalia that she gets. And I mean, of course, should we be surprised at all, since this is someone that is near and dear to Batman and a part of his crusade? Looks like she's got lots of vehicles. I don't know if I've ever seen Cassandra Cain ride a vehicle necessarily, with the exception of Bumbo in Batgirls, but that would be interesting to see her on a bike. And I think just the final, I honestly don't have too much to say about this whole arc, so sorry, it's going to go pretty quickly, but just the fact that we are dropping the Brotherhood of Evil right at the end, and they will continue. And I will say that I think some things get lost in the sauce in this particular arc, and I think it starts maybe right here. Thought it was mainly Penguin, and yes, it works with the Penguin storyline, but I would have wanted the Penguin to kind of be the main person or bad guy that we're seeing and not add more to it. So we will move on to 61, The Hood Part 2, Into the Light. Writer Anderson Gabrick, penciler Ale Garza, inkers Jack Purcell and Jesse Delberding, and colorist Wildstorm. April 2005 is the cover date. Publisher synopsis. When Batgirl goes to the local cafe for some tea, she discovers that McSweeney Realty, who have sold many local properties, are trying to pressure the owner, Brenda Miller, into selling as well. Of more immediate importance, though, is the arms shipment that the Penguin is apparently receiving. Batgirl discovers that someone has been posing as a customs officer and encounters this person, Gemini, aboard the dead officer's houseboat. She soon finds herself up against Gemini, Mala, and the Brain, odds which are too high for her, and she is left for dead, soon seeing an apparition of her late friend Stephanie, aka Spoiler. Funny little anecdote: as I was making the cover for this podcast, the cover image, I should say, this was blocked by Google, and I had to show the censored image. So I guess Google deemed this too violent. But there you go, rapid fire. So we see what happens in real life when someone cannot read, I guess, period. Just having trouble ordering and then giving a large amount of money, which she gives $50 for the coffee and says, keep the change, basically, which is great when you have funds that are backed by a millionaire or a billionaire, but not when you might be down on your luck and not sure which bill to use. But I do appreciate this particular scene, and we'll see it again. And you kind of wonder about the people both in line as well as the people behind the register when this sort of thing happens, and how I don't know, empathetic, well, probably like compassionate rather, and helpful people are behind, because I'm sure that the people ordering are filled with shame and are embarrassed. And I just wonder how often, because whatever her name is, Brenda, is pretty quick on the uptake. It takes 2 times and she clues in as to what's happening. But I just wondered, is this typical or atypical? And I feel like people don't have a good read on other people, especially behind the register, which I try not to speak bad because they are going through a lot. But I think you do consistently want to keep it moving, right? And so you're not going to be necessarily getting a good read on people. And I might be shortchanging them because I'm thinking, when I was working at Michael's, you get a pretty good immediate read on is if someone's upset or not, and then whether, how you're going to talk to them. But maybe it's a bit more difficult if this sort of thing is happening, because Cass is pretty good about hiding this sort of thing. I just enjoyed this particular scene. When will we see that she is working on her literacy skills? Maybe Brenda will help her, but I mean, there's another scene, so we can talk about that later. Another thing that I didn't agree with Cassandra, so she took off her mask. She's talking really well and only stumbling over 1 or 2 words. The other thing is that she understood kind of the implications of what Brenda is saying in regards to commenting on Alfred's appearance, because Brenda makes it seem like, that was, of course, Brenda's perception, that Alfred is like a sugar daddy and there's this huge age gap and everything. And Cass is saying like, it's not what you think. And I thought, does she have that amount of like social awareness that she knows what Brenda is implying? And she even says, I just wanted you to know that I am not a WH, and it stops. So it's like yet another word. So if she's about to say whore, like another word that, would Cass know that word? Would she know the implication? I don't think that she would. Like she wasn't really, which it wasn't an interest in hers, and I think that's fine, but she wasn't really being educated in social issues or how to relate socially to other people, or like if this sort of thing happens, this is how somebody might perceive it. Like that was not really on her radar. So I felt like this was odd as well. I didn't know anything about Gemini, so that was interesting doing just a little bit of research there. I found out apparently that she becomes an ally of Nightwing and the Birds of Prey. Don't know when that happens, but now I know. I'll at least be looking out for her. And then, now we have this brawl between Cass and the Brotherhood of Evil. And I remember way back when Batman forbid Cassandra from having any sort of tussles with metahumans. He's very upset. Remember that? And I'm like, look at this now. She's going up against a group that the Justice League struggled against. So she fares pretty well compared to how maybe an average person would, given that they cause superheroes some struggles. But again, the focus is on them. And while the fight is great, I'm still like, I thought this story was about the Penguin. What's going on? So yeah, we end just with this scene. And I do try to figure out, I guess she just gets slammed into the boat deck so hard that she passes out. And then this fire rages out of control. And somehow the explosion throws her from the boat instead of killing her. And then she's down here and we see this apparition. It's also interesting symbolically. Well, I can talk about it the next one, but the state of her mask in this one I think is very interesting, and then we'll see where we are there. So that is 61, or was, I should say. And then now we just have the final 62, The Hood Part 3, Dead Weight, writer Anderson Gabrick, penciler Ale Garza, inker Jesse Delperdane, colors Jason Wright. May 2005 is the cover date. Batgirl is drowning, but is saved by the spirited spoiler, who encourages her to fight for her life and also helps her remember some things from her past. Later, Batgirl begins a tentative friendship with Brenda Miller and also tips the police off about the Penguin's arms deal with the Brotherhood of Evil. Unfortunately, someone in the police department tips the Penguin off, who escapes, but Batgirl is able to defeat the Brotherhood. Okay, so yes, here we go. Oh, Beyond the Realms of Death, pretty disturbing imagery here. It almost looks, I mean, it's green water. It looks like either a sewer or the a Lazarus pit. So the state of her mask, I feel like this is symbolic. So here we have it's pretty shattered, and then later on the mask will basically be completely off somehow. And I felt like this is good going back to Onyx's discussion with her, just in the fact that this is Cassandra stripped down. This is Cassandra, and not Batgirl Cassandra, and having that emotion, I guess, to talk to using spoiler rather than spoiler or the apparition of spoiler, talk to Batgirl, and then you can't really see what exactly is going on. I will say that, first of all, if you have this comic or if you're watching this video, you should see just how David Kane is holding this baby. He's literally holding a bundled baby in his fist. He's just like grabbed it as if it were a one of those big coolers that those buff guys carry around so they drink a gallon of water a day. It's kind of nuts. I also said, what a suggestive embrace. So, if you're keeping track and wanting to see what sort of evidence you can provide in regards to Cassandra and Spoiler having a romantic relationship, there you go. What the artist decided to do here is rather suggestive. Yes, you should look this issue up, I think. So I like spirit guides like this, especially if it's someone who's close, someone maybe who had departed. It's also a classical idea of having ghosts and things visit, and going to the underworld, world, being a big thing for a couple epics. So I like this sort of thing. But it feels like this was more a recap of her life. And as someone who does not like anime recap episodes, because I feel like it was a waste of time. Why are you wasting a crucial 22-minute episode on this? Yeah, I feel like we could have done something better than just going through, as if Cassandra needs a reminding about the stuff that she has gone through, the trauma that she has gone through. Maybe we could have had her consider certain actions that she had. Like, oh my gosh, what if she sees her, bad interaction with, I'm not blaming her bad interaction with Barbara Gordon. And then, oh, how can I repair this sort of thing? And yeah, grow from them. And I think it was also a missed opportunity to have a longer and more personal discussion just between the two of them. So, what spoiler meant to Cassandra and vice versa. So I don't know. It was just a recap of her life. And I thought, well, what is Cass learning from this? There was definitely a brief consideration of nature versus nurture in this particular recap, which I thought was something that Cass would think about as these images were happening. And maybe thematically, she had never thought about that before, but given some evidence, she would have been like, oh, yeah, that is certainly something that might be true. Like, this person went through this and I went through this, but this person didn't have what I had and I did. So this is how we may have turned out. Okay. So there's Barbara. Oh, Barbara. And this is pretty disturbing just to see Steph's ghoulish face at the very end, but she does wave and, do what you do best, what you taught me to do, fight. And then she gets out of there. So here it is, this scene. I like that she caught on very quickly. I do wonder what is going to happen between the two of these. It is not lost on me the fact that Brenda looks, well, suspiciously similar to Barbara. So it would be really interesting if Brenda decided to help Cass with her reading. She didn't take Barbara up on it. So that would be both interesting and sad. Even though this story predates Batgirl Burnside, it has the same small town feel where Cass is getting to know her neighborhood and, maybe Batgirl will be the town hero. At one point she walked around the city and she's getting to know this coffee shop, making friends. So I feel like there are positives here and I like that. At the end, we've got this homeless person who has been kind of stalking her, but I thought, who is this man, this child, I don't know, who is sitting there, and then Cass feels like she has the freedom to give him a kiss on his head, and then he wakes up and he's still like watching out for her. I don't even know. Oh, good, she's home. Not really sure what's happening here. I will say that Donovan, I had told him, like, boy, if you were on here, I think you'd have some comments. And he reached out to sort of the preeminent, I would say, Cass Kane person on Twitter. And so I know now that this is a person and he will return, but it doesn't go too much further. And then I guess I won't spoil who it is. I guess I'll just wait to find out who he is when that happens. But it's just like, I thought maybe it was Tim Drake in disguise, because why else would Cass actually give him a head kiss like this? Oh, and I should say that, I mean, the proof in what I said about how dangerous the Brotherhood is the fact that she's researching them. And here we have the whole Justice League. So while it's interesting and fun to have her pit up against the Brotherhood, I feel like maybe it's unrealistic, even if it is Cassandra Cain. So, yes, it's been a while since I've read a Cass issue. I told you, or at least it feels that way. And so I feel a bit rusty in reading her and analyzing her, but I feel like there was a lot of potential here and it just fell flat. There's just too much going on. And really, any one thing, reconciling with Spoiler's death, or really processing it, getting to know Bloodhaven, the Penguins thing, any of those could have been a whole story. And I just think also there are a lot of issues with Cass's character and how she's represented here and how she's being written. But, besides her illiteracy, I think that was written well and realistically. So I don't think well of these particular issues. I think I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. What should I say? 6 out of 10. Oh, sugar daddies. How about that? In honor of Alfred. Alfred, by the way, apparently he's dead. Someone told me this. That's how far out of current DC Comics I am, and that I didn't even know that Alfred was deceased. Okay. Well, I will say there's not really any listener feedback. There was something on YouTube, which was just from Harry, and he said, quote unquote, good friend Harry, explicit reason, how scandalous. Yeah, well, explicit obviously can be used in a couple ways. I feel like I've used explicit so many times in my grad school career because it's all about direct and explicit instruction, and just to be very clear and everything's put forth. But yes, obviously it means swearing. And good friend, yeah, but he does not call me his good friend when I record with him, so there's no quid pro quo there. Okay, well, I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, I will cover actually a modern quickie very quick. And that is from Batman 152, a backup that I accidentally discovered had Birds of Prey, and then do a full review of Birds of Prey, Volume 5, number 13. But first, it is Zayas's Radio Hour featuring Great Expectations from The Outsiders musical. See you soon. Welcome back. Okay, so we are apparently battling the video going on and off from Zoom. But, anyways, this is Batman 152, which I had no idea. This is a backup. It's called Emotionally Compromised by Kelly Thompson and Mattia de Ulysse, I think, Arts and Colors. I will say the art is lovely. The publisher synopsis did not match. It talked about Amanda Waller coming to the birds for an adventure. I am annoyed that this exists where it exists, that it is a backup. Now, don't get me wrong. I want Kelly Thompson to be able to do backups and things like that and have the birds do stuff. But the stuff that this talks about, also the fact that I don't know why Zealot is there given what goes on in 13, but the stuff that goes on here is some heavy topics that should be in their actual book. That Dinah's leadership is questioned because she might be too emotionally close, and you might need someone that's cold and cynical like Zealot to be the leader. The fact that we have Sin going to a temple and having this conversation with Megara about they're not friends, basically, and that any bad stuff could happen. And Sin saying that she probably should have gone into the urn totally with Megara. And I guess the negative of Dinah loving people so much is that she would do something that would be silly and pulling Sin out of that, even if it meant that the world might be in danger. Dinah overhearing this is just like, why are we? And then Barda comes, and I am out of it. If this is connected to absolute power, then I have no idea what's happening. But does she have her powers? I don't know what's happened. Showboating, I mean, hashtag muscle mommy and hashtag gym motivation to get to look like Barda for sure. And then Dinah goes off. On the mission by herself. Everyone's telling her not to. Why did that story exist? Well, I'm confused why the synopsis was one thing and then they went into, when that happens, you know what I think? I think that the writer had a plan and then editorial told them to shelve that plan and told them to change it. But the fact that you had pretty serious discussions about things that could actively affect the team at large, and this is happening in a backup of another book, I think that that's a problem. I don't blame Kelly Thompson at all, but this is something that should have been discussed in Birds of Prey because Dinah's leadership, she's talked about that. And so why would you discuss that in another book and not this one? So yeah, I have no rating for that one, but just want to say that it exists and I don't know why that it exists the way that it does. Okay, but this is Birds of Prey number 13, Worlds Without End, part 5 of 5. Writer Kelly Thompson, art Sophie Campbell. No, that's wrong. I did not update that. Let me give the correct, sorry about that, Gavin Guidry and colorist Jordi Belair. What nightmares await the Birds of Prey through the final portal? With the search of Barbara finally over, Cass leads the Birds of Prey through the portal one final time, and where they end up in a world far too familiar to Cass, but strange to everyone else. What here will turn everything on its head, or should we say who? And I do like that Cassandra Cain is in the foreground here. She's obviously the leader of this portion of the mission. I think it's also bittersweet because I guess she'll be leaving the book shortly. I don't know how that is going to work. I will say somewhat suspiciously that, well, we know Cass is getting her book. And around the same time, Kelly Thompson had a tweet about, seemed like having a rough go of it, and that, comics can break your heart and everything. And my conspiracy theory about what was going on, because it was like vague. So, which is, you don't want to get in trouble, especially as a female creator with DC Comics. Definitely don't want to speak out too much because they are not protected. I feel like Cass was taken from Thompson without really talking to her. And I will use the evidence of previous writers having that happen, or just in general not being told about plans as evidence that there's a consistent history. And so my conspiracy theory is that, yeah, she was not having a good time because maybe she was told this is the direction. You can't use Cass anymore because of this, which is a bummer. If it's true, obviously don't take my word for it, but that's just a conspiracy theory that I have, and it will be sad to lose Cassandra because I feel like she's a good, not alternate, but maybe like co-lead with Dinah, and then also I'll miss Cass and Barta. But hey, I could be wrong, and maybe she'll still be in this book, so it'll be fine. But we'll see. We shall see. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I like the idea. I think what I liked most was using Selah's mindscape, especially where, and this is a good connection with the first half of this episode, especially where we see the spirits or the apparitions of her sisters and that they start to go after Maya. And so what a good plan to use that. I appreciate Stella calling Maya out on not using maps to solve the murder of their mother once we have an altercation back in the world, because you used maps as technology for your own power and not for something else, even though it was like connected, like your anger and everything was connected. And I thought, yeah, that's just like a villain who is just overcomplicating everything. The editor's box, if I can find it, does let us know where we are. Yes. So see Spirit World for Cass's journey into, well, Spirit World from Jess. And I feel like this is great. Just now we know that Cass was once in Spirit World. And so it makes sense why she would take lead on this particular segment of the mission and bring them here, because she would know what was going on. And also the fact that we brought that person to speak to the actual portal and get a feel for what was happening. Again, is this the third time? Murder was an option. Let me see where this line is, just so you believe me that it existed. Yes. So Maya going back into the pocket dimension is incredibly frustrating, but also, was there a better option today? The other option was murdering her, perhaps warranted, perhaps wise, but perhaps is a big word. It carries a lot. And I guess maybe I can give more grace here just because Dinah is mentioning it. Like, yeah, there were two options, but that one was not really an option at all. But I just feel like there have been 3 times, I think at least, that murder was like mentioned as an option. And even if it's like put aside, I feel like maybe that should never be an option for the birds of prey. So just a bit confused about that. I feel like this whole thing was a bit of a letdown because Maya escaped and she's basically still on the run. I find it interesting that Barbara is interested in following, but everyone else shouts no, either because of the situations that they had gotten themselves into or found themselves with all those portals, or because, well, Barbara was the one that started it and they had to go find her. And then we just got her out of danger. Let's not do it again. Not sure. With Constantine's lowjacking, so the birds are alerted to any portal opening up. I'm sure we're going to see Maya again. Whether I care to is another issue. She was fine, but not necessarily someone I want to go back to. I think the most interesting part of her and her, well, really, I would say, yeah, the most interesting part about Maya were her sisters, and then the Velvet Tiger connection, which I feel like we didn't get to see too much because that's very quizzical about why did Barbara murder Velvet Tiger? What was the situation there? Oh, and I should say, because I just finished rereading Circe by Madeline Miller, I wonder if it was just like a total accident, because at the end of, well, I shouldn't say that. At maybe the last act of that, Telegonus ends up accidentally killing his father Odysseus because something touched his cheek. And I thought, yeah, that's probably what happened here, is that Velvet Tiger like did something and then the result was her death, but it was blamed on somebody else. So who knows? Will we ever find out? I doubt it. Zealot telling Dinah to lose her number is I mean, a zealot thing as much as I know of her character. Of course, this stands in contradiction to what we just saw with the Batman 152, so not really sure what's going on there. And then, yeah, I just have to say that I feel like this is an anticlimactic ending. They got back to where they needed to go, but they didn't, I guess they defeated the person. They defeated Maya, I guess, but then now she escaped. So in my opinion, it ends where it begins. And that's great for ring compositions, but you also have to ask yourself what did the story accomplish? Stella is in this world now, which it will be interesting if we see her again. But the fact that Cass offers herself to help, and I don't know what Cass is doing. I don't know if we'll see her again. Else, and maybe in Cass's own book, maybe she'll pop up. But yeah, I'm not really sure what exactly we accomplished or what insights we got into the characters. I don't know that I necessarily did get any insight. So unfortunately, that is a weakness of this story as a whole. Because I thought the art is great, how it changes. I thought it was an intriguing idea about the sisters and relating them to mythology in that way, and how the different settings and these different scapes were designed to reflect the person that was there first. I thought was interesting. But and we find out what was going on with the red and the whole Maps Mizuguchi thing and that connection. So I guess we find that all out, but it just doesn't feel like, yeah, I don't know. So a bit of a letdown for me, in my opinion. So I think I'll probably give this a 7 out of 10, like as a whole, as an arc. Yeah, I'm interested to see where the story goes from here. Oracle, well, Donna gets a message, and says that Oracle needs to see something. So we'll see what that is. And it says next Undercover Blues. So I guess we'll find out. Okay. Well, just 2 more little sections. So one, of course, is Stella's Dungeon of Smut, which is brought to you by Hornacek's Fried Calamari Sticks. Geez, I just need to get the product placement right. And I think, there's just one that I would recommend. And as I told you, I'm slowing down. I can't ever fully stop, I will say, because I have maybe 4 authors that I'm subscribed to their newsletter. And it was mainly because I wanted to see an extra chapter. And in order to get extra chapters, you have to subscribe to a newsletter. So then I'll get these emails, and it'll not only be about their work, but then also what they recommend. And so I'll sometimes skim that and be like, oh, that sounds interesting. So Jennifer Susevich seems to be a prolific romance writer, and she's got some football, she's got some hockey. And I feel like I've finished up the hockey ones. At least I'm caught up, and then the football ones as well. And for the most part, I'd be like, yeah, it's 3.5. But Campus Legend, I would give that a 4, mainly because I think the issues that both of the leads go through are interesting, especially the guy just being maybe not well favored by his parents, and because I think they're mostly about intelligence and success in terms of money and business, but they don't really understand athletics. And so what it felt like for him to be on the outs with his family, and then having this girl who was looking beyond his athletics and seeing that yes, you're an athlete. I think he's a safety, maybe, or a cornerback, but also you are so much more, and seeing that in him. And I thought that was really beautiful. So I did like that one. And then, yes, so I think that's the only one I would recommend. And then now on to my literature recommendations. I will say, even though they're not listed, but I had to do another tag. Like I said, Circe by Madeline Miller. I found a book club here in Baltimore, which just met this morning, and I had to speed read the last 60 pages. So it was fun to reread that and then chat with them. And then also reread Dracula by Bram Stoker because Tom chose it for required reading. So you can find that in October. I finished Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McManus. So I'm going to try to go through hers, and I enjoyed that. I thought that was, I feel like she's a good writer and I enjoy the characters and everything. And her endings are usually, or this ending, I was going to say her endings are usually shocking. I'm trying to think if the other ones ended on a cliffhanger, but this ending was pretty shocking about something. You find out what basically the killer whispered to one of the leads, because you know that he whispered, but you don't find anything. And she says to the police and other people, I didn't hear him or whatever it was. And then at the end, you find out what it is, and it's related to her mom. And then I also speed read Camelot 3000, which Tom lent me back in spring. And I don't know. It's one of those things where, you have time technically, but you just don't do something. And I definitely had time, but did not before the move, and then asked, can I bring it up here? And then I'll give it back to you in Baltimore. And literally I had to speed read it the night before, Friday before the Comic Con. So, but luckily I have given them back to him. So that's basically it. Remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirltheoracle@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter @BatgirlTheOracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version, and follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. And remember to support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. I think next time might be some more cast stuff. So we'll see if that gets any better. But I think I'm getting close to the end of her run, which is really interesting. And then we get to see Cass as a villain, which according to Donovan is a rip-roaring good time. But until then, fly on, Babs lovers.
Just plain Barbara Gordon, masquerading for a lark as she rides into the night on her special Batgirl cycle. Who knows? Is the dynamic duo destined to become the triumphant trio? Only time will tell us more about this dazzling daredoll.
I love a happy ending, don't you?